On this week's episode, we're going to discuss a very vanilla OS.
That's
and
rude,
a
Michael.
very... What?
Why are you calling it vanilla? That's very rude.
I mean, first of all, some people like the flavor of vanilla. How dare you?
Like
Secondly,
You're
it's
vanilla.
it's the name of the distro. There's also a new desktop environment we're going to be talking about that's not very vanilla, but is very alpha. Welcome to Destination Linux, where we discuss the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source and Linux. My name is Michael.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jill.
Also this week, we might get to the Firefox news that we were planning to talk about for 3 weeks now. So maybe. I mean, there's no guarantee at this point, but we
Only
got
3 weeks
other
old.
Exactly. We got other stuff like Linux gaming stuff we talk about and more. So we may or may not still get to the Firefox thing. So let's get this show on the road towards Destination Linux.
Our feedback this week comes from Jason, and he has our tip and trick of the week for us. See what we did there? We Uno reversed them. We got the tip and trick right up front, Michael. It's crazy. This show's crazy. It's off the rails this week.
It's just like every other week, really.
Yeah. Jason goes on to say, hey guys, I was recently looking for a way to self-host my music, and in parentheses says music I paid for. Sure, Jason. Me too. I found mStream. It was super simple to set up. I just downloaded the app image, set it to auto start, and with Tailscale installed on both my mobile and host. Bam! Bob's your uncle. Yes, I listen to Noah too. The dev promotes himself as privacy conscious, and he has a fitness app that Ryan may want to take a look at that doesn't spy on you. That sounds actually pretty nice. An app that doesn't spy on you. Anyway, I sent a few bucks his way and thought you guys might be interested in mStream as a software spotlight. So, Jill,
yes,
you have, out of all of us, without a shadow of the doubt, the most largest music collection out there. So, have you ever played with mStream, or what is your go-to kind of streaming app?
Yeah. So now mStream is going to be that app. That is a good one. Yeah. Before I was using, what's
it doesn't matter. You're on mStream now. Who cares what the other one was? Dead to us.
Oh, I was using MediaToom for years and years, but that's not specifically a streaming server, but it is a data, server for media.
That's an interesting name for an application. It's like where your media goes to die. MediaToom.
MediaToom, yeah.
Like that's okay.
So thank you so much, Jason, for bringing mStream to our attention. It really is wonderful. There is actually a web-based demo that you can try out on their website and GitHub page, and the UI is just so easy and awesome to use. The mStream playlist management is really cool. You can save, share, and download playlists. And there is even an auto DJ function to generate a playlist of the imported folders of music that you put in the program just for you. And the web app even has, and this is one thing that excited me, the milk drop visualizer, which plays beautifully with the music. That is such an awesome visualizer.
Let me go ahead and Google milk drop visualizer.
You have no idea what this is.
Oh gosh, that's the classic from Winamp days. Yeah, that was one of the most popular.
It is not what the name depicts. It does not look like milk dripping. Or anything. Yeah.
In fact, it changes. The visualizer changes a lot, and that was what was so cool about it. Is it's very complex and lots of.
Who named this?
I know.
Maybe it's Milky Way because it kind of has some Milky Way looking images.
Yeah,
maybe it's Milky Way drop or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're being too generous, but let's move on.
Nice. Yeah.
And, there's even mobile apps on the Google Play Store and on the Apple App Store. So this is just a very robust streaming music platform, and it's wonderful. And again, easy to use. It's most of the ones I've used before are just command line based. So it's really nice to have a GUI based one and works on the web.
So I've been wanting to kind of experience music like I used to with CDs, and I have LPs. I have lots of LPs. And kind of get back into having my own music that I'm generating. But it's just huge time commitment, number one, to kind of get everything digitally uploaded. But number two, things like Pandora and all of these, it's so easy just to find the music and stuff there. But of course, you got to pay for that, but you don't own anything. And a lot of times you lose rights to certain musics or songs because an artist and the company don't get along, or the company doesn't pay the artist well. Either way, it's kind of a lose-lose situation. But I love this idea of taking control back over music and things, and an app that makes it super simple to do is fantastic in my book. Michael, you just use streaming music, I assume. You don't take the time to digitize all your stuff.
I used to take the time, and I unfortunately, one of my drives, I'm pretty sure it fried. Like it was like, there was like not so like it was some bit rot, so some of the songs were gone. But then there was also like, I think there was like some faultiness, and I didn't back up the music for that drive because it's basically all it was doing. And when I went to get it again after one of my moves, it was just gone. So
you had no backups.
Well, the music was also like, there's not a lot of music that I had that I, cared
Taylor
that much about.
Swift, Mariah Carey.
Name one. Name a Taylor Swift song right now.
Shake It Off. Shake It Off.
Okay, there we go. There we go. See, people, it is possible.
It is possible. Only because we learned from last lesson after.
Yeah, exactly. But I like streaming because I can have it on all these devices and I don't have to sync it and stuff. And it's cool to be setting up all these like streaming services and stuff if you want to have that kind of thing going. And I do like that idea, but I also don't wanna. I don't want to go
through the legality of stuff too.
Yeah.
Because like what I would love to do is sync my music and put it on a server, and then have access to Jill's collection, and then have access to other friends' collections. And if you could do that, then that would be amazing. But there's so many legal issues that you would run into potentially by doing that. And so, I mean, you could still do it, with some servers peer to peer and stuff like that. But that's more of how I would.
I also like the idea of that when I listen to a song, the artist is being paid, like I do like that. So when I'm using Spotify or whatever, like I used to use Tidal, then I switched to Spotify when Tidal became not very good. But Spotify it's the kind of a thing that I sort of like that by, I know they don't get much. They get a very, very small amount per play, but I do listen to the stuff all the time. Like every day I listen to some of the songs. And I also discovered songs through Spotify, which is really cool. Whereas if I was listening just on my own files, I wouldn't discover anything new.
That's true. That's one of my favorite things about Pandora. And I use Pandora because they have a college stud discount. And so I use my college stud discount to, stream my Pandora. Wow. And it has some of the best recommendations of music out of any of the streaming apps that I found. Their algorithms are very, very powerful there. And helped me discover a lot of new music recently through them.
Absolutely.
Spotify was good, but Pandora kicks its butt with the recommendation stuff. But I see what your point is, Michael. One last thing before we move on. Bam, Bob's your uncle. I looked through my family tree. I actually don't have Bob as an uncle anywhere in my family tree. And just curious real quick, Michael, do you have a Bob in your family tree that is an uncle?
I have a Bill.
Bill doesn't count. Bill's not your uncle.
Oh, okay.
Bob's your uncle.
So I guess
Jill,
Bob's
do you have a Bob?
No, never had a Bob as an uncle.
All right, so Jason, sorry, Bob's not our uncle, but thank you for writing in anyways. If you want to
clear that up.
If you want to send in your question or feedback, you could do so by going to destinationlinux.net/comments, or you can put it on the forum, destinationlinux.net/forum. We would love to hear from you, but just know when you put things in there like Bob's your uncle, we're going to put it to the test and find out. And that's how we roll on this show. We are fact finders. We're the best in business.
We care so much about
everything.
Frivolous nonsense that
you never know where we'll go next. All right.
Exactly.
So CrowdStrike, still on people's minds. I saw this post on Reddit.
For a long time, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
I saw this post on Reddit where it was like one of these events, and CrowdStrike had a big banner there, and they're like, "Imagine having to man that booth at CrowdStrike at that event recently." That's.
I would actually probably enjoy doing that as a person. So like, as an employee of a company that messed up, I would kind of enjoy it because it ain't my fault. I don't like whatever. And I would
You're
just
an employee.
enjoy
It could have been your fault.
no, based on what I would be able to do for a particular company like them. No, it wouldn't be my fault.
You would have been involved in the release of the software.
I would have absolutely nothing to do with any data content pushing or coding or no. I would not be doing that now.
And you would be at the most popular booth at the event. There's
exactly. I would get so much attention.
Michael just wants the attention.
I just want attention, people.
Yeah. He's like, hey, everyone, come talk to me. I'll talk to you about the outage. All right. So we covered that CrowdStrike and its ability to run at the kernel level. We had some discussions, even previous to that about malware and viruses and how they might be better protected. You might be better protected from that on Linux, but it's not impervious to it. So this week, something caught my attention. There was a new distro release, VanillaOS 2. And VanillaOS 2 is kind of similar to Chrome OS in that the root system is immutable. So when you hear that term immutable, or read-only, and it also has 2 root partitions. So the idea behind that is you can always roll back to one or the other if, say, an update caused a problem. They keep each other kind of in check, those 2 root systems there. So that got me imagining when I was reading the news about VanillaOS. I was like, oh, kind of interesting. We have other immutable OSs out there. But then the CrowdStrike thing being brand new, both of those came together. And I'm like, hey, this is really interesting because if CrowdStrike was running on this OS, first of all, it would never had the privileges to run it at the root level. And second, if it did cause some kind of damage or failure at all, you could always, the fix would have been just to roll back to the other partition. Like it would have been an easy thing to resolve.
I mean, so technically they could. So CrowdStrike does work on Linux, and they do have some, not the same level that Windows does, but they still have some level that they could probably still mess up things. But your point about the AB system is really good because of the fact that all you'd have to do is reboot the machine, and then Bob's your uncle, and you have
no, he's not. Michael, we've already established
Bob's not your uncle. But your system would still boot.
It's true. Your system would have still booted, and it would have been a much easier. I mean, it still would have taken out tons of systems, but you'd have been able.
Yes, but it wouldn't require someone to manually come who is going in to fix the piece and do that sort of stuff. Like the issue is it would have shut everything down, but it would have been down for maybe a day at the most because it just requires a reboot at that point. Whereas the actual CrowdStrike problem sometimes required people to physically be there to fix it, but also sometimes they couldn't fix it at all. So this would be a much better, even though they could still mess up Linux stuff, which they kind of did before, just not to a degree that mattered. It still could be done, but the AB system would bypass this completely.
I think CrowdStrike has this incredible capability right now to I don't know why this is stuck in my head because I've said this multiple times. Reverse this whole situation by coming out. And you're the marketer, Michael. Tell me what you think about this thought here.
Sure.
All right. So I love a good comeback story. I don't want bad for CrowdStrike because that means people lose their jobs and all this. There's a lot of people who are well employed and they're trying to do really good things with CrowdStrike. So my thought is you basically say, hey, AI, we implemented it. It was a major failure in our testing. I don't know if that was the case. But I'm assuming that AI had something to do with this whole series of testing.
Yeah.
And we're removing all of that out. And we're going to go back to having people verify and validate all of these systems and basically blame AI instead of being the company saying we're adopting AI to see if they could kind of coattail that out, a little bit.
Yeah, kind of be the hero.
Right.
Yeah.
The one company that's doing the reverse.
Yeah.
I think that idea is interesting. And also, I don't think they tested it at all in the first place, but if they did or didn't, it doesn't matter. They should still blame AI. They should do exactly 100%. What you're saying.
Yes, just blame it.
That is a good tactic. I mean, it's messed up in the sense of you're blaming things that had nothing to do with it. But if in terms of PR, an attempt to kind of reconciliate
to
or whatever.
Try AI. This is what happened. Now we're no longer going to be pressured. Our new product will be AI free. We're AI.
It also would mean that there'd probably be more jobs there, and also a longer time frame of how safe and stable the jobs are. So I think that would be a good idea in general. There are ways that CrowdStrike could, right the ship. That's one of them. There's other ones, but they're all basically like trying to convince people that, hey, we messed up, but we'll fix it, and that sort of thing. And how they fix it is definitely not a Uber Eats gift card.
There's no, not when you caused I think $5 billion in direct losses so far. They're estimating probably that's not going to work very well. But interestingly enough, VanillaOS, this immutable OS kind of concept, I think is really it's. I've mentioned it before when we were talking about the OS that is the Thanos gauntlet of
BlendOS.
Yeah, Blend.
Yeah, BlendOS.
When we're talking about BlendOS, just I feel like it's the future, and so I love seeing these OSs out there. And it's not like a Chrome OS clone directly because it actually is a full desktop environment, and you can install applications. But not just install applications, but Alpine, Debian, Fedora, Arch, and OpenSUSE packages also work in it, and it has its own package management system called APX. It also supports app images and WayDroid for Android apps, which is BlendOS had support for a bunch of different distros, of course. You could run them, all the different packages, and you could do
very similar
stuff in it too. Yeah, very similar. And the latest version is now based on Debian SID, but don't worry about breaking things, the rolling SID, because you can just roll back if something breaks.
There is still an issue of like the fact that SID, the packages in SID are not necessarily stable enough by the sense of like Debian's opinion of it. They don't consider them stable. And that in itself could be argued as like not the best choice because Debian testing, at least you'd have some testing being done on these packages. And like, it's not the absolute worst thing to base on. I mean, I guess that would be an experimental branch of Debian because they just put things randomly without any testing whatsoever. But at the same time, I still think like I don't know how I feel about yes, it's an interesting thing to do of taking Debian SID and then trying to add some immutability to it, but also the amount of updates that Debian SID has is not really, they don't really correlate well with a immutable to me. So I don't know how well this is going to work out in the long term, but I think it's interesting overall. I just feel like testing might have been better. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to go back to the CrowdStrike thing real quick because while you're talking, I was just looking up because I remembered they had come to a final conclusion of what caused CrowdStrike's issue. And it says that the company routinely tests its software updates before pushing them out to customers. Sorry. But on July 19th, in a bug in CrowdStrike's cloud-based testing system, specifically the part that runs validation checks on new updates prior to release, ended up allowing the software to be pushed out despite containing problematic content data, aka AI. They blame it on AI and they just, kick it out and then they say we're never going to use that again. See?
It's a good tactic. It would I don't know if it would work, but it would be a good thing to try.
Yeah. Come on, CrowdStrike CEO. Contact me. I got you. Michael will work your booths. I got your strategies.
We'd be such great consultants for you.
Yeah.
Just think about it.
We're seeing a lot of immutable distros come to life, and I absolutely love it. I actually think Chrome OS was something quite genius that Google once again started but never took to the finish line. Like, I don't feel like Chrome OS has ever become what it could have been. I think this concept isn't unique to VanillaOS. Obviously, we've got lots of distros that do this type of thing. And by the way, if you want to try VanillaOS, which I highly recommend you give it a shot, just know that there's a lot of rumors out there that's still kind of alpha. They're still working out. It's not alpha. It's kind of alpha acting. There's a lot of little bugs and things like that need to be worked out. But I love the attempt. The more distros we get like this, the more we learn. And then, one of these will emerge as kind of the main immutable OS that I think will kind of set the standards for the future. But I think all of our distros in the future will probably be some form of immutable. And it's just a shame when you look at something like Chrome OS to think about what it could have been, Linux-based, of course, and that they just really don't take it to the final level. So we'll do it in Linux. We'll do it our way.
Yeah.
We'll do it like Burger King. Your way, right away.
So I think that there is some definitely some elements to that, what you're saying. I don't know if it's going to be always, like everything's going to be immutable, but I do think that immutable is going to be like in a little while, like a couple of years from now, we're going to see immutability being a huge like pillar of why people would want something, because the technology will be advanced enough where you can have the drawbacks that you might have with immutability wouldn't really be there for most people. And I think that's when it's going to happen, where you're probably right at that point. It's going to be a very big piece of the pie.
Yeah. And I think with the popularity of devices like SteamOS, the Steam Deck with SteamOS, which I use that immutable distro almost every day.
Good point. Yeah. It's a really good example of immutable.
Yeah.
Well, so I think that the majority of the time, like, immutability is perfect for like an application based thing. So like the Steam Deck, the SteamOS is perfectly aligned for the Steam Deck. Its main purpose is to run this specific thing, and it functions very well. The problem I see with like immutability is the configurations that people want. Like different people have different hardware, whereas the SteamOS is specific to that hardware. And then there's compatibility with peripherals that people are going to want to use and applications that people are going to want to use. And how do you fully integrate the customizations options that people would want for immutability? Because the idea of the system being unchangeable and read-only, it's really good for security and consistent updates and that sort of stuff, but it also lowers the flexibility for the user. So whenever
I thought NixOS and others have figured out a way around. By the way, look at that. Trusted NixOS user right there. I thought NixOS had come around and found alternatives to that problem when I was talking to Wimpy about it.
Yeah.
Or they were working on some alternatives to that kind of being able to customize things. So I think
there's certain levels of it. Yeah.
You're right in the fact that it's probably a little ways off, but I think we'll be able to come to a situation where you can still have some configurations that you can make, but roll those back anytime you want if you make a mistake, and still have it mostly immutable. For the
it does like a layer system. Some like Puppy Linux has a layer system as well, and and NixOS is very much like a layer system. And there is a lot of functionality that comes from that, but also the complexity of using NixOS is pretty high right now. So I feel like if someone can take the simplicity of Ubuntu and add the NixOS functionality, that would be a fantastic combination. But I feel like that's probably a ways off.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention when I actually first tried the original VanillaOS, and actually I interviewed one of the developers at the Southern California Linux Expo 2 years ago at the VanillaOS booth, and I was really amazed by the Ubuntu version because it looks so much, reminded me of BlendOS, but was easier to use. So VanillaOS 2 and I think is going to be excellent, and I think it was a good thing that they moved to a Debian base so they can customize it to their needs.
Maybe it was a good idea, but if it still remains very buggy, maybe they should go back to the Ubuntu one.
Yeah, true.
I think it's interesting because there's definitely going to be an issue. Like if you're it's interesting because Debian's like claim to fame type of thing is to be like the robust foundational distro that you can build on top of, right? Yeah. And Debian SID is like supposedly for the speed of updates, right? Yeah. So I get why they would choose that. It's kind of like choosing Arch and trying to do that. But the difference is that Arch also has like a unstable version of things. So it's different. It's a different approach. I feel like testing is better, but the switch is because they don't want to deal with some of the stuff that Ubuntu has. Like, for example, they don't like the being stuck to Ubuntu's release cadence of like every 6 months or the LTS or that sort of stuff. And that kind of makes sense because there are some issues with doing that, like Ryan has talked about with the hardware support many times. But also, like, they would have to implement the hardware enablement somehow, and that would be very interesting to see how that would work. So I get why they're doing it. I don't know what the best base for an immutable system is,
Arch.
But there are
good
quite
point,
a few.
Michael. It's Arch.
I was going to say that I like Fedora Silverblue is really cool, and also the Universal Blue people who make Bazite and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, we got to talk to the Universal Blue people and Bazite developers at scale last year or this year.
Yeah, we did.
This past year. So
yeah, roll that footage, Michael.
Yeah,
we didn't record it.
Oh.
Speaking of an Arch immutable, Manjaro Linux just announced an immutable distro that's in the works and being tested as
Very
an
nice.
official release in the future. So
That's
that
exciting.
announcement just came out this week.
There you go.
Yeah. That's
More
interesting.
Archbase. Smart.
Yeah.
Smart. So if you're wanting to try out some new things, see what they're up to, check out VanillaOS 2. But we got more exciting stuff because we got our hands on
Woohoo!
something that other people haven't got their hands on and been able to try, Michael. We're
That's
super
right.
special at this show. Super
We are super special. And also, by the time this comes out, you have already been able to download
What?
it. I mean, yeah, because it's coming out. The ISO is coming out within like less than a
lame.
day or something.
How are we going to brag?
We're bragging from the past, so they
Okay.
in the future will know that we.
Yeah, we got it ahead of time. Yeah. Sorry, I had to get it out. I got it out.
Okay. Anyway, what we're talking about is the Cosmic Desktop, people. So for those
We
who
tried
don't
it
know,
before you. If you don't know, we tried it before you.
if you didn't know that, and now you know, I guess.
Yeah.
So the Cosmic Desktop is a desktop environment made by System 76, and it's a Rust-based desktop environment. And for those who are not aware, it is basically in the development stages, and it's currently going into alpha. So you'll be able to download it and try out the alpha. It is very accurate to call it an alpha, but there
This
are
one
a
is
lot
definitely alpha.
It's definitely alpha.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of cool stuff in this, and we're finally getting close because for those who don't know, we've been talking about Cosmic for a while because we had System 76 on to talk about Cosmic 2 years ago, I think.
It's been a while. It's been in development for a while. I've been drooling about it ever since. And let me tell you something. The great thing is I got to try it before the rest of you. And so I'm going to tell you all about I'm going to tell you about some of the things that I loved that I got to try.
Before everyone else, yeah.
Yeah, before everyone else. I want to make that clear. Workspaces look just absolutely amazing. And what they've done is they've taken all of the great work that they started in Pop! OS with workspaces and tiling, and they've moved it into Cosmic. And then I think they've made it even better. You've got preview, snapping, vertical and horizontal integrations, auto tiling per workspace, and all of these really cool
auto tiling per
features.
Workspace and per monitor.
Oh,
yeah,
man,
that's so
it's
cool.
It's like taking i3 and all the things you love about it, but then modernizing it in such a great way
and giving you things that you wish i3 could do that it could.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of functionality made into applets, like the tiling, for instance, so you can run them or you can get rid of them if you don't want to use some of those things. So they've taken a lot of features, as I understood, in their video that they did, kind of introducing it, that you could basically turn off some of these features, remove them from your system entirely. So they almost make it like how Frameworks makes a laptop. You can pull out what you want and put in different elements through the applet system, which is kind of cool. Really powerful workspace. And ultimately, there's a bunch of other things we'll go through as well. But what I felt at the end of the day was, again, this is alpha, so it's not ready for prime time. They're not claiming it's ready for prime time. There were little things in here I could nitpick and stuff I wish it should, but we don't know what the end result's going to be. But what I felt is this is exactly the direction I was hoping they would go. And I feel like it's made for developers who want to get into their computer and just work. And that's been kind of System 76's big thing with Pop! OS from the beginning, is it gets out of your way and you can just get to work. And that it very much felt like that. And I feel like we're going to have the GNOME that we deserve. Finally, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be quick and snappy. It's going to have app indicators. And
yes,
it's just, I feel like we're going to have something really special with this. I was super pumped, utilizing it, even though there's a lot of stuff that's not even ready yet. I was just, with what I could play with, I'm like, yes, they're going exactly where I hoped they would go with it.
Nice. Jill, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was just so excited on first launching the alpha, like, oh my gosh, it's coming to fruition. It's coming.
We got to try it before everyone else, Jill.
Yeah, yes, we did.
Okay, just want to make that clear.
And it's so beautiful and fluid, even though it's still a framework, and there's still parts of the UI that need to be added to, of course, and buttoned up. But it worked really well. I actually tested it on my GNOME Boxes virtual machine, and it worked really well. And I was impressed also with the installer, which looks just like the great, Pop! OS installer that I have come to know and love, and it's fast. And yeah, the installer worked really quickly. And one of my other favorite features is the new Cosmic settings window. And it, has a much nicer menu system and is much more visually appealing than their previous one in GNOME. So one of my complaints is that there was just always a list of text settings printed on the left-hand side of the window when you launched it, and nothing. It was blank space on the right. So now, instead, the options come up on the right-hand side immediately, filling in the blank space, and it just looks more polished and finished. And before, the settings options on the right of the menu didn't show up until you clicked on a function in the text settings list on the left, like sound settings. And now the options are just right there when you launch it. That I know quite a few other people have complained about that, but that was one of my biggest complaints.
Yeah, I think that not having something there is a missed opportunity. So it's good that they're doing it. I like the way that Plasma does it with the KDE style. Is to just have like
nice.
He just can't help himself. We're talking about Cosmic, and you have to mention KDE. It's ridiculous.
Because she brought up something that's interesting, and the way KDE does it is the best way. They have the front page of the settings is all of like the most likely thing that you're going to be changing, like having the dark mode versus light mode, or having how your mouse works in a certain way, or having an accent color option, and all these things are like just right there, so you don't actually have to go to any of the settings to see those specific things. I think that's a really good way to start off with a system settings app.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something that I was thinking a lot about the whole time while using the Cosmic Alpha. I am just so impressed that they're making a desktop that follows a similar paradigm visually to GNOME, making it easier for Pop! OS users to switch to their new in-house built Rust-based desktop.
Agreed.
Because the temptation would be easy for their developers to completely change the layout of the desktop or completely change it visually, because they could, but they chose to keep it familiar. And that's just so very important.
Well, it's interesting because they have it where it's very similar to, like, it's similar to how GNOME used to be and how Pop! OS became. So if you went from GNOME now to Pop! OS, it wouldn't be like the Cosmic. There's a little bit of a difference. There is a lot of similarities as well, but there's a little bit of a difference as with like how the workspaces work and function.
True.
But it's interesting because the way they give you so much flexibility. Mm-hmm. Like one of the things that I'm super excited about is it's out of the box. It has a nice polish. It has a nice feel. But if you want to change certain things, you can basically change whatever you want. You can change the colors of the windows. You can, like, it's interesting because they don't really have themes, because the way that the Cosmic layout is, you can just change the colors of whatever you want, and it will just adjust it based on what colors you want. So I think that's an interesting approach. But there's also one of the things I like about it is that there's so much configuration. So like if you want to have tiling on a particular monitor on a particular workspace, but you want the other one to not have tiling, you can do that. If you want to have a dock at the bottom and a panel at the top, like by default, you can do that. If you want to move the top panel down to the bottom, you just right click, go into settings and change it, and you can move it down. And the dock at the bottom will adjust to sit on top of the panel. So it kind of like notices that you're doing things that are kind of like conflicting and addresses it. So those kinds of options, I think, is what going to make Cosmic a very interesting desktop environment for a lot of people, because you have a
alpha,
good polish.
That customization.
Especially
because a lot of the advanced features that, like, for instance, with GPUs and stuff, they had the automatic switching to discrete GPU.
Yeah.
And somewhat apps like Steam, you can choose, Steam was automatic, but other apps outside of Steam and things that may not automatically trigger that discrete, you can right click and say, hey, go ahead and utilize discrete. And then it fully turns off your GPU, your discrete GPU, when it's not in use. So you're saving on that battery life, which is really important when you have the hybrid. So these are advanced things that DEs implement years later after release, and they're getting all that stuff in now,
Done
which is
now,
great.
yeah.
They're not using excuses like, well, we just launched, so we're not going to have the features people have come to expect. They're really putting in a lot of the stuff now, and light and dark mode. I mean, it's already there and it's mandatory. And I love that it's there. I'm actually, if they keep up in this current trajectory, I'm going to make the prediction that Cosmic DE is going to outdo every other desktop environment on the market by a long shot. They are on the verge of everything we've all said we wanted in a DE, but they've just never been able to deliver. And I think this is the first one that might be able to deliver it.
The default
Also-
DE.
Yep.
I also think it's interesting that the way that they're doing it is a lot of people are asking, like, are they going to make a new distro because of this? Like, make their own thing because they're making a DE. And I think that it's actually good that they're doing it this way, where their distro is based on another one and they're focusing the development effort on the DE. And it's clear that that has been successful because the DE is, it's funny because when System 76 does some things that people kind of question when they announce it, and then once they do it, people are like, oh, okay, we get it now. That's great. So originally when Pop! OS announced that they were going to, or the System 76 announced they were going to make Pop! OS, there was a lot of naysayers.
Like so
why?
much crap.
Yeah.
So much crap for it.
Why yet another distro? And like, what is the point? What are you going to do differently? And then they showed what they're going to do differently, and people liked it. And then when they announced they're going to make a desktop, they're like, why? We already have a desktop. Well, now they're showing what they're doing differently and why they're making it. And it's interesting because I feel like this Cosmic Desktop is a massive step forward in a lot of ways. And especially with like the power user stuff, like the tiling is really good. And I think, and it's funny because I don't necessarily like the way that the tiling and the GNOME version of the Cosmic setup that they have for Pop! OS previously. I don't really like the way that works, but the way it works in this is very good, very impressive. And the way you can have tiling on an individual monitor, have it on an individual workspace, but also if you just want to have tiling on this monitor and then also bring another application that's not tiling, just sitting on top of the tiled windows, you can do that. Like there's so much flexibility that you can go back and forth between tiling and not tiling, or you can have something inside of the tile and just hit a shortcut and pull it out, and you can maximize it or whatever you want to do with it. Like there's so much you can do in this desktop already as an alpha that I think that you're right. It's going to become one of the top tier desktops, if not the best, the most popular.
Yeah.
They started with productivity, I feel like, as their core focus, and they've kept to that throughout. Everything you would want in a productive desktop environment that's mature, they're building in right out of the box. And so it's just, I'm very excited. It's everything I had hoped for. Obviously, it's still alpha. It's got a long ways to go.
Yeah. There are a lot of
long
bugs.
way to go, but there were bugs, there were things, but
that's an alpha.
It's alpha. It's supposed to at this point, and but
they were also upfront about the
trajectory,
bugs that were there. They told us upfront,
Absolutely.
that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I think like you're saying, the trajectory is, there's so much potential there. It seems to be like a really good desktop already. So the idea that, give it some more time to bake in some more improvements and polish up some certain things, there's so much potential for this particular desktop.
Jill, what do you think? Best ever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think this is going to be one of the best desktops ever because again, they're listening to the community. In fact, they're even a lot of the community members are making like, a battery indication system and all these little, applets, which is really cool that, they're allowing the community to do that. And, they're utilizing open source to its fullest. Also, I wanted to mention real quick, it was one annoyance with Pop! OS on previous versions that they have fixed this version, and that's the Cosmic App Store update system is so much nicer. Oh my gosh. It's much more visible, and it's now in the app categories list instead of hidden in a hamburger menu.
Yep.
That is much better.
Yeah. It's just much more, visually easy to find. It's right there when you launch the App Store. So I was really happy about that. And it's really easy to install software. And I did without issue. I installed a few pieces of software while I was in there, including
Yeah.
Steam.
How did
Very
you get
exciting stuff.
how did you get Steam installed? Did you use the Flatpak?
No, I just used the deb.
Okay, so you downloaded the deb
Yeah.
and then you installed it to the terminal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to do that,
Filth
and I
hacker.
realized there is no way to install from a deb inside of the App Store, the Cosmic App Store. And I assuming that's going to be at some point that's going to happen, right? It's still an alpha and all that.
Yeah.
Then I installed GDebi so I could test that, and GDebi worked. But when I tried to launch GDebi or install an app through GDebi, it would crash GDebi. So it didn't work. So the only way I could, that's why I was asking, like, did you use a terminal? Because I think that's the only way you could have,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool stuff in there. There are some like issues that are not necessarily like alpha related. Like they're just my personal preferences because the blue glow around the windows, I'm not a big fan of that because it reminds me of the KDE Plasma 4 days where there's like this blue glow around everything. And I would prefer another way to indicate the app is active than that glow, because I can't explain why I don't like it, but I just it's just not.
Yeah.
It's personal. It's a personal.
It's
You
cool.
could probably
It's cool that you
change
can
the
turn it
You'll
on.
be able to customize it later.
So you can already customize it. You can change the color
Yeah.
to whatever you want it to be. I changed it to Tux Digital Blue, obviously, and then but also you can there's like a section that says like highlight border level or whatever, and you can just knock that down to 0 and it gets rid of it entirely. So you can make it where it's not there. So the flexibility is there already. So I'm happy about that. It was just kind of like, I mean, the design has a lot of places that it could be improved like slightly, but overall, I think that it's fantastic.
Nice. All right. Well, sounds like everybody here is on the same bandwagon that this could be the next big thing. Yeah. And so that's pretty exciting. That's pretty rare, actually, especially for a desktop environment. So,
I mean, if it was based on Plasma, it would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, by the time you're listening to this, you can be like us and be playing with the alpha and let us know what you think in the comments. Send us your comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. Keep in mind, people, it's alpha. Please keep that in mind. Like, you have to understand that alpha is very much, you're getting a testing preview of the software. So look at what its potential is, not what it is right there. And then if you find something that really, really bugs you, then you can go ahead and send that into the team, and maybe there'll be something they get fixed once it starts getting further along in development. But just keep that in mind.
And also, just real quick, this is a understandably, this is nitpicking. It's whatever. But
it's not Plasma, we know.
No. Different. Oh. Not that, obviously, but not that. The Cosmic App Store, that's fine. But you have the Pop Shop. Why fix something that's great? Like, it's not.
Pop Shop is such a good name.
Just the Pop Shop. It's such a good name.
Just so good.
Just a request. Keep that.
That's actually a really good one, Michael.
That's a good one.
That one I agree with. Pop Shop is just too catchy to let go.
I mean, you already did something great with that. Just keep it.
Keep it. Yeah. All right. So that was enough gushing. This show is about, Armageddon type stories and the end of the world. So let's talk about some malware. So texting is very dangerous, Michael. You're not supposed to text and drive.
That's true. That is very dangerous.
Do you ever text and drive?
Almost never.
Okay. Jill, do you text and drive, Jill?
No, because I don't drive.
Perfect. So there you go.
And I don't text when I'm walking either as a pedestrian.
That's good.
Because I don't see well.
Let me tell you something. People driving around here, I watched somebody through their window. It was nighttime, right? And so their screen was in the middle of their window and they were in front of me. And I watched them play Pokemon Go while we were driving. They were trying to flick the ball and send it while they were driving. And this was not like a driverless car. Not that those are really any good anyways. It was just like a regular Toyota. And they're just doing, and I'm like, what is wrong with people? It's scary out there. Please don't text and drive. But this is not the only fear now with text. A new malware is making its way across the Android platform, and it starts with a text message or message on any platform for that matter, such as Telegram, and uses some clever, get this new app or app update messaging that's tricked people across over 100 countries so far. So I know a lot of people in our audience is like, I'd never click something I didn't understand, but a lot of people don't listen to our show. You got to send it to them. They need to learn. They got to learn.
And also, it's
How do we
funny
reach
because
these kids?
there's so many these kinds of things that are happening, and you might feel like, oh, I'm not going to be caught by this. And it is very accurate to say that, some people, even though you're aware, you still could be caught at some point by these scams just because you let your guard down for a second. That alone is enough to do it. So just, you might be confident
Wake
that you
up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're really sleepy, you grab your phone, something pops up, you're like, oh crap, or you realize it. The app leverages the crap permission system on Android, so that that's its official name. So once a user is tricked into downloading the app, the software can read all of your SMS messages, and then it just goes ham from there, going after your financial data. And the end goal, of course, is to get to that sweet, sweet crypto or other financial information it can grab. The fact it works so well just shows you how crap Android's permission system is. It is. It needs to be fixed. I like Android. Use Android. But its permission system's crap. So I know some people don't like it because they're like, but I'm a fanboy. And I don't care. I'm not here to whisper sweet nothings in your ear. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's crap. It needs to be fixed. When they fix it, then I'll praise them. Until then, it's crap. Okay.
Permission system.
So,
crap.
The Google release
the
an official
of sweet nothing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you did do a sweet nothing. I didn't know what you were doing there, whispering, but now I get it. Google's official statement on the matter is just get your apps through the Play Store and you'll be protected, as it apparently will detect this kind of malware. However, that's
really also proven to not to be true,
Yeah. So I don't know that I really like that solution there to fix the problem. I feel like Android could go a little layer deeper there and provide some real solutions there. But I also get it that they shouldn't be held responsible for people just going out there and downloading random apps. But the thing about this is these downloads actually disguise themselves as legitimate APKs or other pieces of software to try to trick the user. So it's not like the user thinks they're downloading some other app. It has an advertisement that looks like a really cool app that you want to download, and then they get you from there. So
yeah, I've also seen. I've actually received these kinds of. I delete them immediately, or ban or block the thing, the number. But I've seen these myself, and some of them are hilariously obvious that they are scams. Some of them are actually written in a way that I could see why people would get tricked by it. Like I didn't, but I could see why some people might.
Yeah. I've seen the ones that link to games that you can play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Those will get you good. Or it may not be you that got it. It could be your kids or somebody else grabbing a game, or, elder parents, those type of things. And this campaign, ones like it, have been going on for nearly 2.5 years. And researchers have found over 107,000 malware samples that do this very similar kind of campaign. So Google, this idea of we'll just get it to the Play Store, we don't have any compatibility in this, is ridiculous. This has been going on forever. Needs to be something that, number one, needs to be very clear if something's requesting access to your text messages, which is often people's two-factor authentication, that it will have access to that, and be software that's verified, and all kinds of different things you could do to make it very difficult for an app to just instantly gain that access out of nowhere. 113 countries.
Better warnings too.
Yeah, have been impacted. India, Russia, United States, Ukraine, Spain, Brazil. Numbers of victims across all of these. So beware. Don't download apps from any messages or anything. Even if you get a message from Michael, it's like, hey, you could get plasma on your phone. Click this link. It's fake. I mean, not the fact that Michael wouldn't be promoting it, but the fact he sent you a link. It's fake. It's fake. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, that would be 100% fake. It would not be an APK. That would require you to change your entire OS to get that. That does exist, though. You can get Plasma Mobile. So let me tell you about KDE Plasma Mobile.
Don't click the link, people. Don't click the link. Don't click it. Yeah, that's the danger right there. Man.
This is just so sad because the many years of not downloading app links in your email, now you have to be careful about SMS. It's just that's the newest technology.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is
Basically,
compromised.
for this doom and gloom episode, I guess we talked about some malware issues. We reminded you about CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
So there are different things you can do. Like basically, if you don't know the you can turn off a setting where it will not allow people to message you or call you if they're not on your contacts list. So that might be something you want to consider. But that if you talk with people who are not on your contact list, because you do like work or something from your phone, then that would be a problem. But there are many tactics you could do to enhance this
One
for
of the
yourself.
best settings is to not automatically download files. So there's an option to turn that off in your messages on Android.
And that should be default.
Yes, it should be default.
Unless you allow an individual to have that, right?
Yes.
That should not be a global default.
100%. Yeah. But then how would they create the backdoors for your phone, Michael? That the government uses steal your information.
Well, they just shouldn't. They just shouldn't.
Oh wait, somebody's knocking on my door and saying FBI. Weird. What were you gonna say, Jill?
The timing of that was interesting.
Well, speaking of doom and gloom, our gaming segment
is it doom and gloom?
Yeah, kind of similar. Yes.
Nice.
So what's cooler than motorcycles? How about combat on motorcycles and add in some Tony Hawk skateboarding like tricks? The game this week is Motordoom.
Nice.
Dun dun dun, doom and gloom, Motordoom.
Somehow it doesn't sound so like gloomy when you say it, Jill. No,
yeah.
I'm happy.
So we have now verified that multiple types of games, Jill cannot make something sound horrific.
Yeah,
But this is actually a game that isn't necessarily even meant to be. It's more meant to be like just ridiculous because when I saw the name of it, I was like, okay, what's this? Just by looking at the cover photo of it, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great because the photo that's on like the Steam page shows like the banner image. It's basically a riff of combining Tony Hawk and Doom, but with BMX bikes. And you see that even the pose the person is giving is very Doom-like. And then you go and watch the clips. It only takes like 10 seconds for me to go like, okay, this is so ridiculous that I like it because you are doing stunts like BMX, like Tony Hawk stuff.
Machine guns tied to the front of your motorcycle or bike. You can have,
and you also have a chainsaw at sometimes like
training wheels. There's bikes with training wheels, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's got a great heavy metal soundtrack to complete its hell-like theming.
Jill, please. That's a fan.
Yeah. But yeah, like Michael was saying, I'll just describe what the Steam review says. So Motordoom is a freestyle sports roguelike horde shooter that combines high-octave, visceral combat with fluid movement and trick mechanics. Perform gnarly tricks while defeating grotesque monsters and upgrade your character with demonic offerings to become even more powerful. Wow. It does sound like fun. I love that description. It's perfect. And there's a free demo that you can try out on Steam. And it's only $13.99 to buy it. And it's gotten a lot of good reviews.
Very nice.
There's a friend of mine who, I told him about this game. So I saw it in the notes and I went and looked at it. And he likes weird random games. And the first thing I did was like, okay, you have to look at this game. And his reaction was like, I normally don't like playing 3D games, but this is so ridiculous. I'm going to have to play this.
Yes.
Yes.
That's like my love of ridiculous movies. Yeah, I dig it. All right. So we promised you we were going to get you Firefox news. We've got 3 minutes to cover it before. So here we go. Back when Firefox was just 128, because I think they have another release just this week that they're like 132 or something.
129's already. 129's already out.
Okay. Yeah. So they added something in there. It's called privacy preserving ad measurement. And so anytime you have something that's like named something positive, oftentimes it can be really bad. Like the government does, like, a Child Protection Act. And what actually happens is now they can walk in your house and take all your stuff. Like, there's always these things, and they name it something really happy. It's bad. This definitely falls into that category for me, because its aim is good to improve ad tracking while safeguarding user privacy, but it is on by default, meaning you're giving data to it by default, which means if you're using Firefox and you've updated to 128, this feature is already turned on. You're already automatically giving data. And I saw no announcement when I updated my Firefox to say, hey, this is happening. If you want to turn this off or anything, they just kind of did it. And Firefox, Mozilla, has a really bad habit, as somebody who's supposed to be the privacy preserving browser out there, of forcing things on without telling people. There was something about this Mr. Robot, I recall, like app that they stuck on people's computer.
Yeah.
The extension, I think, something along those lines, where they kind of force stuff through.
So there's this particular feature they have. I forgot what it's called, but it's something about allow us to run tests or run things based on your system. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically allow them to. They call it studies. That's right. So allow us to run studies on your machine, and the idea is that you would have things that they would. Basically, you're opting in to do tests for new features and sort of stuff like that. And that they use that in order to implement some weird Mr. Robot ad. Like, it was an ad for the show, and it was something like some kind of game or something. I don't know, but it was just an ad for the show, which is hilarious because it is the most ironic thing to do. Like, it's so disconnected from what you're promoting and what you're doing. Like, Mr. Robot's all about privacy and hacking and stuff like that, and you're doing this by injecting it into your browser. Like, it's so funny.
It's so tough because Mozilla has an uphill battle that if you were forced to run this company, I'm asking you to put yourself in their shoes, and you're financially very difficult situation to be in. You're going up against a company. By the way, Google's whole search engine this week has lost an antitrust lawsuit for all of the potentially violations that they've made in keeping other search engines and things down. So this is just an impossible market to penetrate. And Mozilla's done so many good things over the years that we tend to give them a lot of passes. Because ultimately there's a lot of good there, and ultimately they're one of the only other engines out there besides, Chrome.
They're basically the only other engine, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple out there, but not much. They're smaller than Mozilla, and so this company has to exist. It has to make money, and so they're trying to find clever ways of doing that. And ads is a legitimate way to make money. Ads are okay. DuckDuckGo, to me, was a company that proved you can do ads correctly, right?
Yeah.
In a way that doesn't violate people's trust. So Mozilla is trying something here with this new privacy preserving ad measurement, which introduces this feature as an experiment to shape a web standard for advertisers, reduces reliance on cookies, which is a good thing, but still allows tracking in a privacy conscious way, supposedly. It says it works by Firefox encrypts and aggregates information about ad interactions like clicks and submits it anonymously. Advertisers can access campaign success without compiling or compromising individual user activity. The controversy is, despite the good intentions, enabling this feature by default has upset people, and some argue, rightfully, in my opinion, that Firefox should have given users a choice to opt in, or at least told them when it was updated that this was happening instead of doing it silently. And if you'd like to disable this, by the way, go into the hamburger menu, click on privacy and security, scroll way down on the page, and eventually you'll see a section called Firefox data collection and use. And you'll see allow Firefox to send technical and interaction data to Mozilla, uncheck that. Allow Firefox to make personalized extension recommendations. You can uncheck that, and allow Firefox to install and run new studies. You can uncheck that and get rid of some of those features.
And then there's also a website advertising preference thing you can uncheck.
Yeah.
That's the privacy preserving.
That's the
thing.
big one there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those you can go ahead and uncheck. Maybe you can give the Firefox some technical interaction data if you want, but all the other ones just turn off. I don't know, Michael. I'm really at the point, and I'm just being honest, that Firefox is just kind of getting more and more lame to me, and I find myself like just wanting to use other alternative browsers out there, and there's not a lot of good options. But
Not a lot of good ones.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just there's not a whole lot left to like about Firefox anymore. That's just
Well,
my thought.
That's okay. I understand. I think that
Maybe
so
I'm being doom and gloomy, but it's just my
Yeah.
feelings. I'm giving
I
you
think
my
you're being
feelings.
I think you're being a little bit hard on it. I
Okay.
do agree that this move by them doing this and not telling users that they did this, that if they had just told users and the users could choose to participate or not, would have completely negated any issue with like the ethics around it and that sort of stuff. So I think that having it on by default is not necessarily a bad thing, because default is important. Default is king, and people will leave things on default, and that's why people don't like it. But also, a lot of the times, people will not ever even know something exists or that anything is a possibility to turn on, and therefore, that doesn't like having it off by default means that the vast majority of people who would turn it on or don't care that it's on would not even interact with it in the first place. So that's why I don't think that opt-in is the best option for most of these kinds of things. But opt out, if you're going to do it, you also do need to tell the user that you're doing it. You either need to give them the option to choose whether or not to participate, or tell them like, hey, it's on. Do you want to keep the setting? And that sort of thing is fine if they did that, in my opinion. But I do agree that this was a big misstep. The Mr. Robot thing was just dumb. Like Firefox has done things in the past like that are not great, but also they're doing them to themselves. They're doing things that just don't make sense. And this is another one of like, all you had to do was tell users and problem solve. Most users will not care, because if it's true, like Mozilla is saying that they're going to preserve your privacy, they're just taking small information, they're doing anonymized. And if that's true, which people do trust Mozilla, there's a lot of people who still trust Mozilla for that reason, for the privacy respecting thing, then all they had to do was tell you. And
Listen,
it looks very sketch by not telling you.
I think that's a very well balanced thought. But here's my opinion. If I have to go into a browser and turn off a bunch of privacy stuff, I might as well just use Edge or Chrome or something else. Why do I have to use Firefox and have to worry about the same thing? I'm going to have to take the time to do that. My whole point in using Firefox is I didn't have to worry about all that crap. I could just download it and start using it. Now that I have to do that, I might as well use something that's faster, more performant, has way more features, has access to AI, has all of these tools. Like, I'm just being real. I've supported Firefox forever, but now it's fallen so far behind. If you're using Firefox, it's kind of like telling people, I don't know, I still use a clamshell flip phone. Like, it's cool. You can still use it as a phone, sure, but you're going to be really far behind in technology. If Firefox isn't fast anymore, it's not very performant. And now its settings require me, for when I install it, to go into settings immediately and start turning off a bunch of checkboxes and find out where they're at. To me, they've lost everything that made them worth anything.
It's interesting. I mean, Jill, what do you think?
I'm always going to love the open source Mozilla Firefox. I guess it's just because we need the competition out there. But I completely understand, Ryan, where you're coming from, because it's just so annoying to have to opt out of these things should be by default turned on, so that you can opt in or out, whatever you want to do. And but there is the sad news. You hinted on it earlier. Is the Google monopoly case may really hurt Mozilla Firefox.
Yeah,
80%.
It also will help him.
Yeah, 80% of their revenue right now comes from Google search as the default.
Yeah. So this whole thing is actually like the funny part about it is that people are like, haha, Google's getting hit. The people who win from that is Microsoft.
Yeah.
Like not anything that, you actually care about. right?
Mhm.
So, because Microsoft, like they have Bing, right, and
Yeah.
they have Bing as the default for Edge. Of course they do, and it is super popular with
because of its
uh,
Chat GPT integration.
no. It's super popular with Edge users because most people do not change their search engine. So the default search engine is very important what it is. So it makes sense why this whole lawsuit started and how like the anti, consumer aspects of it. I get why they're being sued for it. But at the same time, Mozilla is being paid a lot of money by Google. So if Google could not do that anymore, does Mozilla have a sustainability process enough to keep going? Who knows? I mean, that's one of the issues that they've been trying to fix for a long time.
Yeah.
Google bought priority even on Apple. Like they paid Apple billions of dollars to allow that to be the default search engine is Google. So now Google's in big trouble doing all of this, basically keeping all the competition out. But this makes way for new people to come in and take that throne. And listen, Firefox has an opportunity to go back to its roots. It hasn't, and it's refused to, honestly. It's been very stubbornly not going back to its roots for quite a while now. It could go back to its roots and fix this, or now somebody else can come in and actually do this the right way. And Firefox may be something that we talk about as has been, because we got to be really honest with these companies. We can't keep giving them passes when they keep violating the very things and foundations that they have. I mean, you just got to be honest. Yes, we all want Firefox to be successful. I'd love to be giving different news on this and telling you go download like Firefox, like we have for years, by the way. But I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I still use Firefox because the container tabs are so awesome, but you're making me not like using Firefox. Like, I would prefer. Also, I don't
Containers
know
are
what
dope. Containers are dope.
Yeah, the container tabs are just so cool. But also, real quick, why do so many applications require Chrome? Right? Like there are certain services that require you to go to use a Chrome browser.
They need to look into,
right? That's what they need to check out. But also, what is it about it that Firefox can't do those things? Like I'm curious. Like that's what Firefox needs to focus on. Obviously, make money. That's the thing. But at the same time, they need to see whatever they can figure out to stop that. But also, this whole idea that the governments are talking about the certain default search engine and not talking about how some things require Chrome itself. That I think that's more problematic.
The Widevine implementation. There's a developer out there that's got to know the answer.
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely some reasons. I know it's technology.
Let us know, please.
I don't think it's Widevine because you can use Widevine stuff inside of Firefox. I think it's more of like
their implementation of it or something. There's got to be some licensing or media playback.
I mean, Google makes Widevine, so I doubt it really matters there. But I think it's more of like certain features inside of Chrome are not in Firefox and that sort of thing, and like the deep level sort of stuff. I think that's more what it is. But at the same, I mean, it's not necessarily like these people are making services that don't work in Firefox, so they tell you not to use it in Firefox. I get that. But it also just, it kind of irks me a little bit because it feels like 1995 when it says, hey, use Internet Explorer because that's the best experience. Or
use Netscape. Yeah. And also, I think the next step is actually a Chrome, a web browser monopoly by the DOJ. I think that is coming. And if there's no competitor to it,
right.
Well, that's different though. That's actually not going to be a problem whatsoever because the way that they don't have a monopoly. Chrome has the majority of users, right? But they don't have a monopoly. Their browser engine does have a monopoly.
Yeah,
that's different because it's going to be a lot harder to argue. Like, well, why can't Edge exists? Why do and Brave exists and Vivaldi exists?
Yeah, but it's all the same.
How are we?
Yeah.
Yes, but in terms of like brand and monopoly and who controls what, it doesn't necessarily. Because they chose to use that.
Yeah.
Enjoy that one. Enjoy that one, lawyers.
All right. Well, we finally got you the Firefox news. That's our take. We'd love to hear yours. Write us, let us know. But that's the end of this show. So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. And by the way, to all the new patrons, we see you and we thank you. You're the reason why we can keep doing this show each and every week.
Thank you so much.
You also saved another Jill's penguins from
That's
right.
certain doom. And this was the doom and gloom episode. So we were going to take out a penguin.
We were this close for getting rid of a penguin, but you saved him.
Yeah,
So
you saved him. So thank you for helping out there, and a lot of nice, kind messages there as well with the new patrons. We really appreciate that. So join us in our Discord. Go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. And by the way, if you become a patron, you can watch the show live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. or somewhere around there, 6:15, 6.
Well, 6 p.m. Central Time,
6:30,
U.S. Central Time. If you don't
something, because Michael, he's perpetually
trying to blame me, but just for everyone to know,
6:35.
he was late today. Ryan was late today.
Jill,
I was
late?
on time.
No,
Yes,
I was here before everyone.
Thanks,
here.
Jill. Michael,
but that's not answering the question, Jill. Ryan was
Michael, you're
late.
not sticking
He
to the
was.
script. Please read the script.
See, Ryan
read the
was.
script. Michael,
You
please.
went off script. What are you talking?
Back on script, Michael. And that's just one of the awesome perks you can get while becoming a patron, by the way.
That's true. You can also watch the show, but you can also get access to the patron only post show that happens every week after the show, and you can talk to us about all sorts of stuff, like things that we talked about on the show, whether you want to talk about Firefox, or maybe you want to talk about last week's show, or you wanted to answer the very important question of My Little Pony or Care Bears, whatever.
Yes.
Like anything you want
We
to.
got a lot of feedback on a lot of passionate people
Yeah,
about
that was
Care Bears
awesome.
and My Little Pony. I mean,
Yay.
yeah, that's awesome.
So you can become a patron by going to tuxdigital.com/membership and signing up, and you get a bunch of cool perks. There's special access on the Discord like we talked about, and so many more. So go to tuxdigital.com/membership, and also go to tuxdigital.com/store where you can pick up some cool swag like Jill's I'm Unhackable shirt. And
Yay.
also there's hoodies and mugs and even more, and none of what Ryan's holding up. So go to tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with gooky geekness.
Good job, Jill.
Check
Nice.
out the DOS Geek channel. Ryan reviews awesome tech, discusses ways to keep your privacy intact online, and geeks out on all things open source and Linux. So make sure to check it out. And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
Everybody, have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
World's coming to an end.
Aww.
The doom and gloom episode.
No, my penguins were
Which
saved.
is also...
No doom and gloom.
That's true. That's true. The penguins were saved, and also Cosmic. We were really big fans of Cosmic,
Yeah,
so
that's
it's not fully doom and gloom. I
You
guess.
have to get off the Earth and go cosmic for it to be happy again.
Yeah. You want to get off this planet? Check out Cosmic.
Yeah.
I sure do. I sure do.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Love you all.
Most of you.